How's it going, everybody? I'm Drifty from Driftwood Gaming, and I'm going to be doing tutorials on RPG developer Bakin. So you finally bought the software, and you're excited, maybe, and you click that play button, and it loads the software, and it comes up, and you're presented with something like this, RPG developer Bakin, blah, blah, and you're like, how do? Well, obviously, we're going to hit next, and we're going to create a project. We're going to create a new project and start learning just how to do things one little thing at a time. We're going to take it really slow. So let's call this one our tutorial project, subtitled learning, with your host with the most Drifty. Working path, just select where you want to put it. I'm going to create a folder on one of my drives, call it RPG Dev Bakin and projects. Hit the next button. Asset amount settings included from the beginning, normal and simple. I'd suggest you just click normal because unless you're going to create all your assets on your own or you're going to add the ones from here, adding assets in the engine isn't necessarily hard, but it also can be kind of clunky. So I just recommend you just start with the normal assets that come with it. So that's what I'm going to be doing now. So I'll hit next. Now here you're presented with two different screens. I don't know why they chose to do it like this. It's not immediately like clear or it doesn't seem necessary to even start this. Regardless, it's pretty simple what you have to do. You double click inside one of these, it's going to load the asset manager. It might take 30-40 seconds for it to load the first time. It's fine. It's going to be quick after that happens. So let's double click on the one that for here we're going to be looking for an image for when your main character is moving. So double click and it's going to say preparing, and it could take anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds. That was very fast that time, probably because I've been using it. So what we're going to do is navigate into the 3D stamps. We're going to click in reserves. We're going to click in 2D cast, hero cast, and we're going to select hero A. You can navigate through the other folders because it comes with a lot of other assets and pick whatever you want. But for this tutorial, we're going to select hero A. Also, you can read this text here if you want to read it. Same thing for layout. This is going to be for the face that it wants to use. So it recommends image textures, reserved, 2D casts. So let's go ahead and do that. Double click, image textures, reserved, 2D casts. But you can see that 2D cast is here as well. So once again, you've got a bunch of options if you don't want to use the ones that are set up in the reserved. There's something with the file management in this engine that isn't quite optimized. Not everything is localized in one place, and you're going to have like what seems to be duplicates. Hopefully it gets restructured in a future version. We are in early access. This is still the day of release. So I'm thinking it's going to change at some point. Right now, just follow the instructions and select your hero. And it's pretty much, that's all there really is to it. So we're going to go into for sprites and we're going to select the character 01. You could select him with a weapon. You could select a different thing. It really doesn't matter what you pick here because you can still change it once you get inside. So just call him whatever you want. I'm going to call him Drifty, and I'm going to say next. So here is a cool, interesting thing about this software. It really lets you create a bunch of different types of games. We're going to stick with the player central view because it's going to be probably the most commonly used one. I think first person might be the contender for what is mostly used. So pick whichever one you like, but for this tutorial, we're going to use this player central view so that you're allowed to see your character and like have a basic moving a camera around functionality. You could lock it so that you're right behind the character, seeing your character like a third person perspective, or you can also use the first person perspective. Side view is kind of just like the player central view. We'll get into all that later. Don't worry about it. I recommend if you want to follow along with this tutorial, we just select the player central view and hit next. Operational method. This is, you can set up all your own controls, however you want to let the player move the characters around, move the objects. It's really up to you what you want to do, but it does come with some pretty cool presets. So if you chose the side view operation, obviously you would choose side view operation for the control scheme as well. This is basically control scheme. If you have like a race car game and your main character is a race car, you would use tank controls for something like this. For the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to use top view operation to make it really simple. We're going to select to use the jump and the inertial movement. These are a couple of scripts that come built into the engine. I imagine over time that this list will be expanded, and there'll probably be DLC for that other people make that lets you include these sort of things. You can include C# scripts to do basically all kinds of stuff that C# allows you to do. We are in early access, like I said, and right now, only thing that comes with it is jump and inertial movement. We'll go ahead and take them, and we'll say next. The wizard is pretty simple. You hit next, 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 next. We can test play or we can start it over again. We're going to hit start editing your game either down here or right here. It's the same. And what this is going to do, it's going to sound like an error, but it's not an error. It says, do you use automatic map generation? This engine has a really cool feature that automatically generates maps for you. And they're very random. And I'm going to choose to say no so that it starts us with a flat map. But if you say yes, you'll have hills and valleys and all kinds of things, and you can auto-generate like mazes and tunnels and all kinds of different things. It's pretty cool, but for the sake of this tutorial series, I'm going to just say, no, don't make me an auto-generated map. Give me a flat map and let me manually do it. So this is where it's preparing the assets. It'll take, I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute, depends on the speed of your potato. Once it starts going, you'll see opening the game files and you'll see some loading screen happening. And then you've got this flat green screen. Those of you who have used RPG Maker may recognize it and may see it as something that looks like this, you know, just a flat green square map. And that's very familiar, except now, whoa, we have 3D control. So this is a really cool engine in that it lets you use 2D or 3D objects, you know, it lets you use sprites, and it lets you place all of that on a 3D world. So this is kind of a trendy thing right now. I don't know how long it's going to be popular, probably for a little while at least. If you look at games like Octopath Traveler, there's like a triangle strategy. There's like this other everyday life game from Nintendo. I forgot the name of it, but like there's a bunch of games, specifically a lot coming out from Nintendo, that use this kind of style where you're using 2D sprites that face the camera on a 3D world with a particle engine and with a lighting engine and all kinds of post-processing. Now, if you look at this, there's a lot going on right here. It's kind of the middle ground between RPG Maker and like Unreal, and it's somewhere in the middle there. We have these tools here that let us edit the map. If we were to select this top left tool, this is a rectangle tool, and it will let you kind of create boxes. And this is a highlight thing right here. There are shortcuts that I'm going to recommend you use, like the plus and the minus on your keyboard, which will let you raise your selected terrain level higher or lower. It's really neat that we have these tools in sort of like a Photoshop style shapes. We can do circles, and we can do like a fill tool. Like you can do a circle with a fill tool, or you can do a circle that's just what has been highlighted. You can do the entire square and raise or lower the entire square. You can select the entire section, elevation, and raise everything that's in that elevation or lower it. You can draw directly with the pen tool. By selecting what you want to draw and then selecting the tool, you can change them just like that. If we wanted to put lava in this corner, we could do so like that. Some of these have auto tiles, but most of them are just static images, and it's really not that hard to make your own. We'll get into that later, how to make your own resources, but it comes with an okay amount of different terrains that you can use. Once you've got your terrain the way you want it, you can click on objects, and we have particle effects that you can play, that you can place. You can place different objects, and any piece of art really, whether it's 2D, made with something like a sprite, or it's something made in Blender, you can use it in here, which is really cool because it gives you the option to decide, do you want to display a sprite like something that's always facing the camera, or do you want to display something like a 3D Blender asset that's got its own facing no matter which way you turn it because it's 3D. It really leaves it up to you to decide what type of art you want to create for your project. And I really appreciate that. That's a really nice touch that this engine has above other engines that are specifically 3D or specifically 2D. This one is a mishmash of both of them. It's not as hard as something like Unity or Unreal. It's not as simplistic as RPG Maker, but it has really good functionality and it lies somewhere in between. The engine is still in early access and there are still bugs with the engine that I've found, But overall, I think it's pretty good. I would give it a thumbs up. It is a pretty good engine, and I think it's worth looking at if you like the style of games like Octopath Traveler. Let's take this tree right here. We've got this 3D tree object, and it's just graphic. But if we want to convert this into an event that has some functionality or does something, we can select it by pressing escape to select the terrain rectangular select tool, or we can press 1. There's 2 hotkeys for it. Once you do, you can left click on things, and we'll click on one of the objects we have placed. In this case, red tree. We're going to click on this little icon right here. It looks like a face. That's going to convert this object into an event. Now, what's really cool about this engine is it comes with a plethora of pre-made events. So if you don't really want to go through every step of making an event, there are tons of events that are already made that you can use to do different things. Like I said, you can use C# script if you want to get more advanced. There's a bunch of preset stuff. Or what I prefer to do is to make a custom event. If you're coming from RPG Maker, and I know a lot of you are, what you should think when you look at this, when you see event sheet, is pages. Inside of an event in RPG Maker, you have different pages, and those are called sheets. So event sheet 1 is essentially page 1. It will always try to play the highest page that meets the conditions. You can set conditions right here on this section right here. So you can say only play this if a variable is a certain number. To add a variable, we can click here, slowly click it. I wish F2 would rename, it does not. Maybe they'll add that later. We'll call this whatever we want. I'm going to give it a naming convention of var underscore. It doesn't really matter, whatever you call it. And then this is basically the contents of your event. So we have our page, we have our conditions, and then at the top, we have our trigger. You can use this, and then if you wanted to have something that's going in the background, you use repeat and parallel, and then that's the trigger, and then the contents are everything underneath. So let's look at the command selector really quick. Lots of different categories with pre-built commands. We've got a lot of different things. You know, they're not all exactly where I would have put them, but it doesn't really matter because it does have a lot of functionality. You can put in your own script if you want to do something that you can't find inside of these pre-made ones. So it uses C#. If we click on this little area down here, C# program assignment, you can click on this and you can create a new C# script. If we click on new script and click OK, it creates a folder with a new script and it will try to run this code upon this event. If you want to edit this script, you can open it up in your own IDE, or you can click on edit and it's going to open up Visual Studio 2019. It's going to try to install any framework that you're missing. You're going to get this pop-up if you have something that's up to date. Just use the 461 framework. I think is probably fine. And then it's going to open up your Visual Studio and it's going to look something like this. And this is just a C# script. And it seems to be importing stuff that they've made from Smile Game Builder. We won't get into this right now. That's going to do it for this tutorial. We have a lot of new stuff to cover. Hopefully you're excited like I am. This is a really cool new engine, but that's going to do it for this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you do want to see more of these tutorials on RPG developer Bakin. And that's how it's pronounced, Bakin. I know you want to call it Bakin. I want to call it Bakin too. And you know what? We can call it Bakin. I'm sure it's fine. That's going to do it for this tutorial. Thank you guys so much for checking it out. Like this video if you do like it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. And come join us on Discord. Would love to have you come hang out. That's going to do it. We'll see you. Bye-bye.